let's walk through and show the people, I guess, kind of what those conversations sound like, because I think this is where a lot of agents, I mean, that's where a lot of their questions or their hangups are. Like, what do I say? What's the approach? How do I work this source of business? So can you walk us through, I guess, your mindset with the conversation and where you're trying to take it and what your goals are with the conversation? Yeah.
Yeah. The conversation is really simple. I'm just saying their name, and then I'm asking them if they still own the property at, 123 Main Street. And then I ask them if they've thought about selling in today's market, considering how high the market is. And they, most of the time they'll say no. And that's just a reflex no usually.
That's right. I was hoping you were going to say that. We didn't script that, but you've been trained enough now. I hope that it's just a reflex.
Yeah. So you have to dig a little bit deeper usually. Ask them how long they've owned the property, how long it's been a rental, if they'll consider selling in the future, if prices continue to go up. It kind of varies depending on the conversation, how it's flowing, but I'll ask a few more additional questions and try to determine if there really is a lead there or not. And, if there's not, then I let them go usually and move on to the next one.
Good.
If there is, obviously the first goal is always to set an appointment, but on these type of calls, that rarely happens.
Yep.
And what usually happens is me getting an email address and offering them a CMA. And I send them the CMA and then schedule a follow-up call to review the CMA.
All right, let me pause right there. So before we go any further, I want to just rewind for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
You said, like, and it's so good. So many agents are going to benefit from this. You call a prospect, right? They don't expect you. They're not expecting your call. You're calling out of the blue. You're calling a hyper targeted list of prospects, absentee owners, and most of the time they're giving you some type of reflex resistance. Most agents right there are done, right? And walk us through, I guess, or let's just talk about it. Let's just mastermind through that. I mean, there's no difference than when you and I go to a department store and they say, "How can I help you?" We all respond with, "No, thanks. I'm just looking." And then we just pull out our wallet in 5 minutes and buy something, right? So there's no difference in that. That's what you experience as well, correct?
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. They know that if they tell you no, that most salespeople will get off the phone at that point.
So when they give you that resistance, and how I handle it is through ARPing, right? I just say, yeah, totally makes sense. I get it. Let me ask you, how long have you owned the property? Is that how you transition into the next question?
Yeah, I'll say something like, yeah, I get it. Most people aren't looking to sell right now. Let me ask you, how long have you owned the property?
Beautiful. And from that moment, that then puts you in an opportunity to further the conversation and then uncover the true motivation, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so, go ahead. I'm sorry. What were we going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, and even though I go down that line of questions, most of these prospects that I'm calling are not going to be a lead. So, I don't just keep going and going and going. If I determine, based on how they're answering me, I have to gauge whether I should keep asking them more questions or not.
Absolutely. I think the takeaway though, Kevin, for people that are going to get the first takeaway from this little mastermind, I think, is that what percentage, again, we're just spitballing, of the leads you do generate come through prolong or furthering the conversation versus people just coming out of the gate and saying, yeah, we'd love to sell, like if you had to guess.
I had to guess probably like 80%.
Come through
asking an additional question. Yeah.
All right. So this is the point, everyone. Like, this is the takeaway. Listen to what Kevin just said. It's been my experience is the same thing. So this means 80% of the leads that you get, the listings that you're going to get, are going to come through getting through the initial reflex resistance. And therefore, if you are just giving up on that first ask, you're losing 80% of the opportunity. Would you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah. And I used to do that too. And I would get I used to just dial like crazy and do like 1,000 dials a day. And I'd do 100 contacts and I would just blow through them like that. They'd say no. And I'd be like, click next. And I'd run into leads still, but it was just like a huge numbers game at that, where I just had to call so many to get a lead. So if you just dig a little bit deeper on the conversations you do have, you can have fewer conversations and still generate leads.
And that's what we call skills. It's funny because you're only calling 2 hours now, where before, you're right, you were calling 4, 5, 6 hours a day, crazy amounts of effort, where now you're only doing 2 hours a day and getting the same result. You just learned how to stay in the pocket, stay calm, ask questions, increase your skills. Okay, so that makes a ton of sense. So most of them, I would agree, are going to turn into some type of seller nurture or leading to a CMA. So that conversation, when you can stay calm, typically is like, Kevin, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we just see what the property is worth? I'll send you an email with a pricing analysis, and then you try to work that relationship to presenting the CMA so the seller can really visualize what their property would sell for in today's market. And in my experience, that's when you find the real lead or not. Is that what you're finding as well?
Yeah, because they'll usually say, they'll give me a timeline at that point, you know, oh, that the price looks good, but the tenant's in there until December, so I can't do anything until then. Okay, perfect. I put it on my follow-up. That's what I expect.
Yep.
It's never like, it's really hardly ever, oh, that number looks good, let's get it on the market right now.
That's right.
Really, I mean, I've converted some of them with 2 years of follow-up. So it's a long-term game for sure, for the most part. But yeah, you have to ask them their timeline, so you know when to follow up, and then you have to have a system to follow up with them too.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that for sure. We're going to spend a lot of time on that follow-up piece for sure. Because if you don't have a follow-up, what I tell people, Kevin, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, is like, if you're going to spend time making, prospecting calls, if you don't have a follow-up system, that initial effort is a waste of time. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I've wasted a lot of time doing that too in the past, and just not following up and losing listings because of it. So that's the most important thing, is the follow-up. If you're not going to do that, you might as well not prospect.
That's exactly right. And that's where I think a lot of agents say, oh, prospecting is a waste of time. Well, it is a waste of time. If you don't have a follow-up system, you are wasting your time. You're not going to get shit from the initial contact. That's why we call it's lead generation. You're prospecting to get leads, and then you have lead follow-up, where the lead conversion happens into appointments. So, all right. So step one, you're making the initial call. We're trying to determine, are they motivated to sell? Step two, I think, is getting that phone call to some type of CMA exchange, right? So you're emailing the CMA. That step, you are scheduling a CMA phone call, Zoom? Tell us about that a little bit, how you're doing it.
Yeah, most of the time I just do a phone call.
Yep.
And, unless they say, yeah, the property is vacant, or they give me some indication that it could be now business or something, coming up very soon. But most of the time I'll know that it's going to be some, months out. So what I do is just schedule up a phone call to review it. And I don't go super in depth with that because I haven't seen the property usually. I just want to make sure that they receive the CMA, answer any questions that they had, and just kind of go over a very broad price range on what they could expect in the market. So I don't go super deep on those, but I save that for, the listing appointment when that time comes.
So you're using that CMA phone call, which I do the same thing, to determine motivation, timeframes, and then it's really the start of the follow-up process, correct?
Yeah. And they really so I use Cloud CMA, and I choose my own comps, so I don't do the automated, comp choice thing, but I use that because I think it looks nice, and they love, seeing the package in their email, or if they don't have email, I'll even do like a FedEx package. I'll mail it to them, and when they get it, and they love it. So it's like something that makes me stand out, because the presentation of the CMA looks really nice instead of just the one page off the MLS. Something. Do
you have one you can screen share or show us? Like on your desktop, maybe, or
I don't know. I'd have to look around for it. I don't.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, I think cloud CMAs are. They just the presentation of the information is just so good. Mm-hmm. And so for you guys watching this replay on YouTube or Instagram, wherever you guys are going to watch this, just go play around with Cloud CMA. Does your MLS integrate with Cloud CMA, or did you have to get that on your own?
It integrates, but I have to pay for it though.
Okay.
So there's a way to export leads onto Cloud CMA from the MLS, but
Okay.
I pay like yearly for Cloud CMA to be able to generate those reports.
How much do you pay for that service?
I think it's around 500, but I think that's for 2 years, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Unlimited CMAs?
Yeah, I'm trying to log in right now to see if I can pull one up here.
Yeah, take your time. Again, this is just a good mastermind session. I think people would get a lot of value because they're always like, what do you send? What does it look like? What should I send? Because you can generate like you're right. Like we generate so many leads. You have to come up with some type of CMA system that allows you to generate these as fast as possible because you're not spending a ton of time creating these, correct?
No, it's really easy for me. I just go into the MLS and choose my comps and then hit export, and then it brings them over to it, and then I can generate it like within 5 minutes. I have one up if I can figure out how to share screen.
Hover over your screen, and then there's going to be a green button in the middle that says share screen.
Okay.
With your mouse, and then you can pick your screen you want to share, double click that, and then you'll be sharing your screen with us. Boom.
So
there we go.
This is a one that I did a couple weeks ago. So
it comes through as a PDF like this?
Yeah, I can save it as PDF, or I can give them a link to it.
Nice. So if you send them a link, you can send them a link, like text them a link, and they can just open up right on their phone too, right?
Yeah, I could. I usually I'll email the link but yeah, you could text it too.
Cool. Yeah. Scroll through this. Let's just kind of look at this. So talks about what a CMA is. It's got all your contact info. It's got the map. Yeah. This is,
yeah, I just did 3 sold comps here. So, and then it goes, you can do it different ways with it. So I just have basically the front page of the listing here, and then 1 page of pictures here.
Love it.
For each comp. So I go through. So when they want to get more detailed with it, I'll go through each of these and, explain when they closed and everything. But then at the end, there's just some statistics, and I give them a price range based on. And
do you put that in there manually, or is it spitting that out?
I put that in there manually. I do everything manually here because
good.
I used to be an appraiser, so I'm really picky about what comps are being used and the value. So I just want to make sure I'm doing it all.
Well, thank you for that. And in this step, my opinion right now is like you just want to have a range because we're not there yet. We just want to give the homeowner an idea of what the market looks like. We're not going super granular yet, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And that one I think said 430 to 460. Usually I do an even larger range. Yeah. That one was a condo, so condos are a little bit easier if there's model match sales. But if it's a house, I'll do an even larger range. Just
10% variance, like 4 to 450, something like that.
Yeah, usually around that.
Me too.
Yeah, so I don't want to shoot myself in the foot by giving them a price over the phone when I haven't seen the property.
Yep, perfect.